All right, back with another tier list. This time doing a tier list that you can't say I'm wrong about because it is my opinion. I guess you still could say maybe I didn't explain my opinion very well. You could argue that. But these are the teams I am most excited to watch in 2023. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean teams I think will do the best. Some teams I think will do very good, but maybe I'm not that interested in. And in fact, a team like the Titans might be kind of a great example of, like, I'm going to give them a C. I don't think they'll be a C caliber team. I think they'll be better than that, and they are good enough that, like, they're certainly not going to be a D. But we've seen it before. They're a very similar team to what we've seen in previous years. So for me, seeing what's new is sometimes a bit more exciting. I'm going to just put them as a C for now. Again, not really due to entertainment value. Not really due to how good they are, but more so due to entertainment value. The Dolphins have got to be very high up on the list. I think they're going to be A tier. I'm going to save the S tier. Maybe I'll change my mind later on in the video, but for me, Miami, that offense was electric last year. I'm interested in seeing if it can replicate that again this year. Also, the addition of Jalen Ramsey, the addition of Vic Fangio, Cam Smith they just drafted. Could this be a lockdown defense? I'm very fascinated in seeing what happens with them. The Jets, Aaron Rodgers is always going to be an S tier for me. He's always one of the most interesting teams. He's always one of the most interesting players in football, and that makes his team one of the most interesting teams in football. On top of it, the Jets were a very entertaining ride last year, sometimes for the wrong reasons, but this is a team that I'm wondering, could they be a championship contender? If they're great, it'll be interesting. If they're mediocre, it'll be interesting. If they're a disaster, it'll be interesting. Jets are S tier for me in terms of how excited I am to watch them. Again, the Bengals here, I'm going to give the Bengals, so again, in terms of how excited am I to watch them, I'm going to still put them in A, because they're very interesting to watch in terms of how good they are. They're still a championship contender, and for that reason, I want to watch them on the TV, but again, we kind of know what they are. I'm not expecting too much changes for them. I'm expecting them to be a championship contender. We'll see how that works. The Cleveland Browns, to me, I don't know. I think this is a D tier for me. Again, they're a good team, obviously, but it just, I always find it weird watching the Deshaun Watson stuff. That's just a me thing. I find it awkward kind of watching that and making videos about Deshaun Watson. I don't love doing that. And I don't know if, again, they're good, so they're not interesting in a bad way, but they're not great, so they're not interesting in being great either. So they're going to be D for me. Sorry, Browns fans. The Jaguars are very interesting. Jaguars are an A team for me as well. Can Trevor Lawrence take the next step? Can these young players take the next step? Can Calvin Ridley finish that offense and make him be awesome? Or could this all fall apart? We've seen that happen before, where a team we think is going to be that next team, like the Browns were, end up being a disaster. Could they be that team? We'll see. We then have the Detroit Lions, who I think I'm going to upset some people here. I'm going to put them into B tier. I am. Listen, there's a chance the Lions could be very good next year. I do think that the draft stuff that they did maybe soured me on them a little bit. But again, what is their ceiling? I think they're going to be interesting just in the sense of they're the Lions, and the fact that the Lions are good, that alone is interesting. But again, they have some very fun players to watch. I'm just not super excited to watch the Lions the way I am some other teams, but I'm still excited to watch the Lions, which is why I'm giving them a positive placement here on my tier list with B. Then we have the Vikings, who they feel very much like the Titans. They are a C tier team for me of, again, should be a fine team. I think they have some holes that I'm concerned about. I don't know how much their 13-win record was because of how good they were last year. That's a little bit concerning, but again, Kirk Cousins, he'll make them solid. Justin Jefferson certainly keeps them out of D tier, but I don't know how much else you care about this team. The Buccaneers, so for me, the Buccaneers are S tier because they're my favorite team. However, can you actually put them in S tier? Well, for them, I will kind of pretend like I am not a Buccaneers fan and just say, how would I view it if I was, not a Buccaneers fan? And they're probably D tier in that scenario. They could win the division, but again, maybe you could argue they're C tier, they're good enough, but I don't know. I guess I'm fascinated in Baker Mayfield and how he'll play. They do have some star players, but again, a team that's probably going to run the ball a ton, wants to establish the run, and wants to stop the run, and they want to play good defense, punt on third downs if they could, that kind of stuff. That seems like the team that I'm not really that interested in watching if it wasn't my favorite team, but it's my favorite team. So they're S tier for me, but D tier on the list if I'm being objective, just with that one. Everything else I'm being very subjective. The 49ers, again, they're so good. They're a championship caliber team. They're A tier. We kind of know what we're going to get. I guess maybe the quarterback situation and what's going to happen there could bump them up to S tier. And I think it will actually, just because I'm fascinated enough in what's going to happen with the quarterback situation. Can they win a championship? They are S tier for me. Then the Falcons, again, another team that for me personally, this is just my list, a team that's going to run the ball a lot and try to set up play action, things like that. I don't love how good their defense is. I'm not that interested in what Desmond Ridder can do in year 2. And again, these are just my expectations going in. Sometimes teams that I don't think will be very interesting week 1 end up being incredibly interesting. Look at Seattle last year. That's a prime example of that. But for me, they are D tier. And then we have the Ravens, who are A tier. I mean, Lamar Jackson is electric. Lamar Jackson, one of the most exciting players to watch in football. I'll watch any game that he's in. And I'm interested in seeing what happens with the receivers. With this new receiving core, could Lamar regain MVP form? I think it's possible. So very fascinated in all of that. The Bears really are interesting because of Justin Fields, but that's interesting enough. I'm still going to give it B tier. There's a lot of holes on this roster, and I don't know how good they can be, but seeing if Fields develops as a passer with the addition of DJ Moore, I'm very fascinated by, so I am going to put them there. And then the Cowboys, I'll also put them in B tier, I think. I think that they're a team that is, very, listen, they're always in the news, right? The Dallas Cowboys. I think that for me, part of what I'm interested in is quarterback play. That's part of why, a team with Jared Goff can only get up to B tier for me. I do think that that's something that I enjoy is quarterbacks. And so Dak Prescott, kind of in that same vein of a good quarterback, but not quite great enough that I'm super excited to watch. I am very interested in how Stephon Gilmore could shape up this defense. They could be a very watchable defense, I think. I would, and adding Brandon Cooks should help out their offense as well. So I'm interested in them, but not super interested in them. Again, the Texans and Colts, actually, we'll put them together. They're both B tier for the exact same reason the Bears are B tier of I'm just interested in the quarterback. The rest of the team, not so much. But you know what? Star quarterbacks can completely shape how the league operates. The fact that they both have, quarterbacks they selected with top 5 picks and, Texans with Will Anderson as well is very interesting. So that's why I'm putting them there. The Rams, I don't know. I am a little bit interested in how will they rebound after that disaster of last year. So I don't think they're D tier. I think they're C tier for me. They feel like they could be a watchable team. I feel like they'll be a surprisingly solid team. I could see that happening. And a team that, if you're a Rams fan, you could still have fun watching their games as long as they stay healthy. But I don't know how much me as a neutral fan is going to end up being, if it's a Thursday night game, for example, and I, have plans, am I canceling the plans to watch the Rams play? Probably not. The Chargers, very fascinated. Adding Quentin Johnson could make this offense elite. It could, and it's already been a good offense, but, with all the receivers healthy now, adding Quentin Johnson, that's incredibly exciting. Adding Kellen Moore is very exciting for me. So, and I think that Brandon Staley's always worth a watch. So they are going to be A tier for me. The Raiders are next up on this list. The Raiders are usually S tier, right? But they're not S tier this year. I think that this is the team that, I don't know, C tier feels kind of right. I think they'll probably have a pretty solid offense, a not very good defense. I think they'll probably be mediocre again this year. I hope I'm wrong because I love Raiders Nation and I love, you guys know how much I love the Raiders. They're, easily my second favorite team, but I just don't see it happening. I don't see them being actually that compelling on the football field this year, and I hope I'm wrong. Next up, the Washington football team, the Washington Commanders. Yeah, sorry, Balls fans. I'm going with D tier. They're not that compelling to me. They'll probably be solid. Again, if you're terrible, which I don't really think any team is like just completely a mess heading into this year. For the past few years, the Texans have kind of been that team. I think this year every team has some interesting thing to talk about. For them, they do have players that I like, but I just don't know how, again, have solid line play. But at the end of the day, I just don't know what their ceiling is. They're probably just going to be like a mediocre football team without great quarterback play, like they kind of were, have been for a couple years now. So for me, that's just not the team. If they're playing on Thursday night, I'm not canceling plans to watch the Washington football team. I'll turn it on, in the background or whatever. But yeah, the Chiefs are always S tier. Mahomes makes them S tier. Oh, media goes crazy over Patrick Mahomes when he makes his behind the back throws 50 yards down the field with his left hand into a mailbox. Like, I do. Those are incredible. I've never seen a quarterback do that kind of stuff. They're S tier. He's S tier. If he was on any other team, if he was on Washington would be S tier, right? That's just, I like quarterback play. Sue me. The Saints are very fascinating. Saints are B tier, feels right. Again, similar to Dallas, where it's like Derek Carr, kind of similar to Dak Prescott. I think Carr is a bit more fascinating because of how much people hated on him for like that stretch right after the injury. That kind of just makes him fascinating. I've seen, no one sort of seems like people don't really love Carr outside of Raiders fans and now Saints fans as the way some people love Prescott or some people love Goff, which I just find that a little bit interesting. They do have some weapons, and again, can Dennis Allen get that defense back to what it was 2 years ago? If he could, they could be a playoff team. But again, I'm fascinated in them. For me, again, they're another S-tier team. I'm going to be watching a lot of their games because they're competing with the Buccaneers to win the division. But, looking at it objectively, I'll give that a B as well. I'm trying to not bring my fandom into it, but, evaluate it other than that. The Giants... okay, Giants fans, you gotta hate me. I mean, if you're a Giants fan and still watching my videos, I appreciate that you don't get mad when I make fun of your team, because I did not think the Giants were very good last year. Again, another one of these teams that's going to run the ball a bunch, try to establish things that way. I don't love their defense. I don't love their weapons, really, and I don't love Daniel Jones as a quarterback. I think, his pocket presence probably is a very underrated aspect of his game that maybe he doesn't get enough credit for. So, but at the same time, I don't know. Not the most interesting quarterback for me. So, Giants are D tier for me personally. The Eagles, I don't know if I can quite put them. Oh, where did I put them? Accidentally let go of it. I don't know if I can put them in S tier. I'm going to put them in A tier, though. Again, a team that's competing for the Super Bowl should be someone who every week you're wondering, okay, can they get back there? Can they be the champions of the NFC for the second straight year? And in the NFC, that's very rarely happened. Very rarely has a team had sustained success in that conference. It's happened in an AFC, but for some reason in the NFC, it seems like there's a ton of one-offs. Could the Eagles sort of buck that trend? We will see. The Steelers are very fascinating as well. I'm very interested in seeing Kenny Pickett's development, interested in seeing how Patrick Peterson comes in and plays, and Mike Tomlin teams are always very fascinating, but at the same time, I do have to say, I don't know if they are quite good enough to be put into A tier for me to want to watch consistently. Maybe they will be. There's a chance they will be, but my expectation is B tier. I think they'll be a very fascinating team. And again, B tier for me, that's maybe, if I'm trying to describe these, S tier is if I have plans on, and they're playing on Thursday Night Football, I cancel those plans and watch them play. A tier is like, I hopefully try to get out of the plans, but I'm not definitely canceling them. B tier might be, I don't cancel the plans, but maybe I suggest like, oh, let's go hang out at a sports bar or something. Like maybe that's what I do. Or let's go bowling, knowing that there'll be a game on in the bowling theater. Something like that is what I do for the B tier. And that's the Steelers for me. Broncos, geez, are the Broncos, the Broncos could be D tier or they could be S tier. I'm going to put them in S tier for week one. I really want to know what's going to happen to the Broncos. I'm so fascinated in what's going to happen. They could week three, they might be all the way down to D tier. That's legitimately what happened. That's what happened last year. But those first few games, I mean, when they played the Seahawks, that was electric for me to watch. I thought that was so fun to see like Russell Wilson kind of be a disaster during that game. And if he's a disaster again, that's really interesting. for a point. So again, for week 1, yeah, if it's Thursday Night Football and that's the opening week and the Broncos are playing, I'm not making plans. I'm watching the Denver Broncos play, and we'll see how well that contributes. We'll see what happens down the road. The Packers are interesting as well. I do think I'd be fascinated if the Packers made the playoffs because of the getting rid of Aaron Rodgers thing, how well Jordan Love plays. That's super interesting to me. So you know what? I think I'm going to put them in S tier as well, just for the whole Jordan Love thing. I mean, they basically ran their superstar quarterback just off the team. For Jordan Love because they like Jordan Love. And that decision they made caused Aaron Rodgers to decide, you know what, I don't want to play for you guys anymore. Essentially, there's more to it than just that. But yeah, that's incredibly interesting. The Panthers are very fascinating for me because unlike the Texans and Colts, I think that they have more going on than just their young quarterback. I think that they have, actual other pieces I'm very fascinated in. Not enough for me to put them in A tier, but enough for me to put them in B tier, certainly. The Cardinals, Kyler's very fascinating. They have DeAndre Hopkins, at least as of recording this video, so, I'm assuming they will still have him. That is fascinating for me, but, I don't know. I think they're still D tier. There's so many holes in that roster. I don't think, Kyler will be fascinating and make some highlights, but other than that, I'm going to keep them there. The Bills are interesting as well. I don't think they're quite S tier for me, but they are A tier. They're a team that, can they get over the hump, right? They're the can they get over the hump team. The answer is who knows. But as of right now, they are I'm very fascinated in what they're going to do. We didn't have the Seahawks who, they added Devin Witherspoon, added Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think they're another A tier caliber, exciting team. I think they're a team that could potentially, come in and, I don't know, could they be a Super Bowl contender? Could Geno Smith do it again? We'll see. The Patriots, I don't know. I feel like the Patriots, I gotta say, even when they were elite, they were never the most interesting team, right? They were kind of just, main reason they were interesting is because of how good that they were, and now that they're not quite as good, I think that kind of hurts them a little bit. They're still the Patriots, and seeing them in a post-Brady era is still fascinating for me. So I'm kind of in between C tier and B tier, but I think I'm going to go C tier. I'm just not that interested in a team that runs the ball well and plays good defense. That's just not my style, although, Patriots are still a team I am fascinated by. So yeah, that is my tier list. I mean, you see down the line, I mean, hey, pretty good, right? I only have 6 D tiers. I only have 5 C, and then the rest I'm either, B, A, or S. So I'm very excited in seeing some of these teams play. The ones I'm most excited for, at least early on in the season, Jets, Niners, Chiefs, Broncos, and Packers. So, those are the ones I'm very much fascinated by. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.